Hi.
Welcome to MetroWestCoders, a very informal group of people who love code and live in the Metro West. We're very privileged tonight because we have an award-winning speaker, very talented Java expert named Brian Tarbox, a prolific writer who's contributed a great deal to the craft of programming, to AWS, and too many other topics that we have time to mention. I'd like to hand it over to Brian, who's going to regale us with some in-the-trenches salt. Take it away, Brian.
Okay. Thank you for those very kind words. And now are we echoing now? Okay. Okay. So, all right. So this is actually going to be a two-part. There's going to be two parts to this talk. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about SALT, the configuration management system. And then Paul is going to tell you probably more sophisticated stuff than I've been doing. So I've been doing SALT programming for about 5 months, sort of accidentally. I joined a startup company that was doing Amazon-based work, and the person who had been running SALT took me aside one day and said, "Brian, you're the SALT expert now, because I've got other things to do." It's like, what's SALT? And from there we proceed. So I'm going to give you basically the 5-month beginner's guide to SALT, and then Paul will tell you more sophisticated stuff that I am very much looking forward to seeing. So I'm going to jump over to some slides. Okay. Intro to SALT Stack and SALT, but if you're looking for it on the web, it's saltstack.com because SALT is just too hard a thing to look up on the web. And we call this Masters and Minions and Pillars and Grains because the SALT folks love to make jokes about SALT. There are also SALT mines that we won't get into, and I've joked that when we're having problems with SALT, I actually want to create a subsystem for SALT called Battery because sometimes it does feel like we're getting beaten up. But anyway. So SALT's a configuration language, and I call it a configuration language rather than a configuration system because it really is that rich. I mean, you can end up writing a lot of SALT code, so you really should think of it as one of the languages in your system, and it's all written in YAML, which is good or bad. I mean, there's a certain freedom to using just spaces, but there's also a sense where it brings me back to the Fortran days, and that if you're not careful in your editors, you can build SALT code and then get runtime errors because you had the wrong number of spaces. So that's YAML. It also uses a templating system called Jinja. And basically, it's a declarative system. You describe how you want the world to be, and then say go. Actually, you say hi state, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And then SALT goes off and sees what needs to be done to make the world on your various set of machines look the way you described it. Very, very rich system, and with that, there are all kinds of quirks. So I'm going to jump now to a set of definitions that were some really nice diagrams that I didn't want to try to recreate. So here they are. So and I put the links in the slide so you can see them. So this is a really good page. So the major components of SALT, you have a SALT master, and so that's the system where you store all your configuration, and you send commands to change configuration down to the minions. And you can send commands to all of the minions, to some of the minions, to various subsets. Very rich system for doing that. And then the minions return.
Brian?
Yes?
Are you screen sharing?
Well, goodness.
I just sorry about you.
Am I screen sharing now? Is that better?
I can see myself, but not your slide. Getting better, getting better.
Okay. So this is the first slide, the first PowerPoint slide, hopefully. Even though it's not PowerPoint, it's Keynote.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I read some of this stuff, so you don't need to know about that. But this is the diagram. So hopefully you're now seeing some diagrams describing Saltmaster.
I think it keeps switching. When you screen share, you may be screen sharing your entire desktop, and you might just want to screen share one thing. Not sure.
Okay. Thought we had tested this, but let me try. All right. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. So we're still getting the hang of this, but okay. So we got a Saltmaster, which is your system that holds all your configuration systems, and then you send commands down to the minions, the targets, the machines you want to have configured, and you can also a minion can also live on the master, so you can use it to configure itself, and the minions send back up results. And by the same token, here, a minion sits and receives commands and sends results up. Okay, I'm going to skip execution modules for just a moment, and we see states. States are sort of the bread and butter of the system. You write a state file, an SLS file, and you put a command in that file. And this command says, hey, the Redis server, I would really like that package to be installed. And once you've installed it, why don't you go ahead and make it run? And the cool thing is, if you send this command down to a minion where Redis is already up and running, it doesn't do anything. If it's installed but not running, it starts it. If it isn't installed, it'll do both. And so you can send this command to all the various machines. So that's states. States are very cool. Grains and pillars are somewhat advanced topics, but grains are system variables. So as you're running with Salt, the minions can make use of grains to look at things like, hey, what kind of operating system am I running on? And what's my IP address or what's my instance name? So the minions can adjust themselves based on data that's in their grains. So that's system variables. Pillars, on the other hand, are user variables that you set. So you and your master can set up pillar data like, hey, instance number 3, you should be, the coordinator or something. And then these guys can look at the pillar data and see who should be the coordinator. Another interesting component of Salt is what we call the top file. And it's called the top file because it lives at the top of the directory hierarchy. And we're going to go into details about this, but it tells you, these are some states that should be run for everybody. These are some states that should be run for the web, for anybody that's has web in their name. And this is the state that should be run for anyone who has DB in their name. So you can use that to control and synchronize everything that happens. Runners and returners, we'll skip for a minute. Reactors, you can have you can have pieces that are event-driven that fire when events happen in your salt stack environment. And Paul may cover this more later. We have not actually gotten that to work, strangely enough. We actually are just in the process of upgrading to a newer version of Salt from a pretty old version of Salt. So we're hoping that we can get that to work in the future. But those are the basic components. So now I'm going to jump back over to the main presentation, and I'm going to remember to switch the screen share. So hold on a second. And Morgan, I don't know how to. Hold on a second. Since we're doing it on multiple screens, let me move this over here on the desktop one. Let's see where I need it to be a little bit more This is... Sorry about this. Maybe we can edit this part out. Trying to... One sec. Okay. By any chance, are you seeing overview?
Looks like a blank screen.
All right.
I'll pause